Welcome to the podcast, From One Mother of an Addict to Another. This is a space of sharing heartfelt personal experiences, insightful thoughts, and powerful suggestions, which can hopefully assist and offer strength navigating your journey alongside a loved one facing addiction and mental illness.
Welcome to the podcast episode, If I Could Just Get Them into Rehab, the dangerous hope parents fall for. It's so sad, and I feel so bad because we're not often told the truth, and we live in this, as parents, all we want to do is save our kids and make them happy, and we want the best for them. So we don't think, we're not thinking past just that day of getting them into rehab. I remember trying to figure this all out when I went to a therapist. The first thing I said was, and no one else said it to me. Not a single other therapist discussed this with me. And I thought about it, and I was just so sick of going to therapists and just talking and not hearing what they had to say about a topic or an issue. And back then, that's what they did. And so I remember them saying to me, I remember saying, listen, I need to know the truth. If I get my son into this rehab, is everything going to be okay? And they're like, no, it's not. It could be 5, 6, 7, 8 times in rehab, and it still might not be okay. And I couldn't understand that. I didn't know what to do with it. And I think now I understand why therapists and friends and relatives, maybe people that have experienced this before, don't come out and say it to you, to your face right away. No, this is a lifetime of dealing, coping with the reality that it could come up any time in your life again, coping with the addict, the unexpected, with your child that has mental illness, that is not taking their medicine or will take their medicine, makes these decisions on their own. Anything can drop at any time. And I think that's the scariest part for us as parents, not knowing what's to come. Because, people don't like the element of surprise. I don't like the element of surprise. I don't want to be surprised. When it comes to important things like this, no, I don't think anybody really wants to be surprised. We want to be able to feel like we have control over the situation, that that part of our life may be past already because it was unpleasant, and we want to move on and to feel like it wouldn't happen again. And that is not reality. Unfortunately, it's a lifetime of coping and a lifetime of understanding that you can't think for a moment that it's solved forever. There's a reason why people go to Alcoholics Anonymous forever, and they go to their weekly meetings. And people that have been strict with it and stick with it and have really kept to it. I've known people that have done it and have gotten out of it, and their whole life they really didn't go back to that bottle, and they've been really good. I think that as parents, we try to make ourselves feel better by feeling like our kid won't suffer for the rest of their life. Because we don't want that. We don't want them to experience that. We don't want them to have to cope with something so difficult like mental illness, like addiction. And so we put that aside and try to not think about it as a long-term coping mechanism. We want to think of it as like just day to day, and often it will be suggested to you. Why don't you just take one day at a time and get a feel for what's happening, what's going to happen. First let's see what happens when they get out after 30 days. Well, I could tell you right now, Don't even think about taking them out after 30 days. Do everything in your power to keep them there for at least 4 months. And yes, I am telling you the truth, at least 4 months. And if for some reason they're like, oh no, this is a 30-day program, well, nothing's happening in 30 days. I'm telling you right now, nothing is happening in 30 days. Nothing. So it's a waste of your time and money. And it's a waste of the government's money and whoever you're doing. If they're old enough, I would, definitely try to do it through Medicare, Medicaid, anything you can to get them help that way, or let them apply for it. It doesn't have to be, a place with great views and tennis courts and swimming pools. I mean, seriously, all day they're trying to cope with where they're at in their lives, getting clean first, going through that, and then, what just happened to them? What did they go through? How did they get to where they are right then, and how to get out of it? Some will just walk out of there, they'll lie to your face, they'll turn around and just start drinking right behind your back. Before you know it, they need to go right back in. So, to begin with, I would do everything in your power to keep them there for as long as possible. 4 months would be minimum. I've seen it, especially if you could find a place that your kid can associate with one of the therapists there. One-on-one therapy in a place at like Rehab is amazing if you have the right people there in place. I would see if you can get it so that they could go a couple of extra days a week through insurance. I would work on that. And that's something I would definitely push for to see if they would do that. Don't think, 30 days, it's torture the first time. It was on his birthday. He's there on his birthday. I'm like, oh, can I send a cake? Literally, can I send a cake? Okay, I hope you're all hearing me and listening to what I said. My son's in rehab. It's not sleepaway camp. It's rehab. And I'm thinking to myself, oh no, I don't want him to celebrate his birthday without a cake. I mean, seriously, yeah, okay? No, you're not sending a cake. No, you're going on with your life. And that's basically, they turned to me and said, no, you need to go on with your life, and your son is going to be in here for 30 days. Ooh, okay. What does that even mean? How do I go on with my day? Nobody knows that he's even in rehab. I'm dealing with this. It's the first time I felt like I was in rehab. And in some ways you are. Some ways you are, because this is all so new to you that you're in your own way of dealing with your own closed in emotions that probably you don't want to share with other people. How am I going on? How am I enjoying my day when I know my son's somewhere else dealing with this, coping with, addiction. Maybe he's had psychosis already, so it's dual. It's so frustrating because it really depends on where you're at in the stages of this. But every time it does get easier. But the first time, you really do think, if I get them there, they'll be safe. No. They met people in rehab, and after 30 days, they call you and they figured, you know what, they want to live with these people. They're going to go to live in an apartment. No, they're not doing that. You're going to go to outpatient, IOP, intensive outpatient program. Yes, that's what you're going to do. And they're going to live in a halfway house. Halfway houses are not just for people that get out of jail and have nowhere to live. Halfway houses are exactly what that is. It's a halfway house. And frankly, that house is a place where they drug test them. Sometimes they're like, oh, they have to get a job. That is the most ridiculous thing, I'm telling you right now. Do not send your kid to a place where they have to get a job. They're not going to clean dishes, and that's not going to make them feel better or help them with their addiction. I'm telling you right now, don't do it. I've been down that road. It makes no sense. It means nothing to you, them. It doesn't make sense. They need to be in a halfway house, they need to do IOP, they need to be in therapy, private therapy twice a week, and that is what they need for halfway house, because you're spending $1,000 for a bed a month, and basically you're not sending your kid to walk, or how are they going to get to where they need to go to get a job, and how are they going to get a job, and their head's not there. I mean, like, I don't even know why that was like a requirement at one time. And so your kid needs to just keep getting through, like, where they're at in their life, what they really want, and how they're going to go on. And frankly, like I said, don't waste your money, because if it's only 30 days in rehab, I would send them back to rehab for a total of 4 months, and then a halfway house for at least 2 months. And they're not going to want to be there, because remember, oh, they get drug tested. They don't want someone telling them what time it's, curfew, or what time they have to be back or in their room, or drug tested. They don't want to be told anything they have. They don't want to do IOP. They don't want to go into those groups. They don't need it anymore. Really? Oh, no. If they're fighting you, you got problems right then and there. And that's a big issue. So those are red flags, and those are things to look for. So again, after 30 days, try to keep them in for at least 3 months, at least, if not more, but at least 3 months in rehab. And then the halfway house. Don't let them manipulate you. See, at the beginning, we're all like, okay, honey, all right, I'm so happy you're clean now. This is great. Okay, you're ready to come home. No, you're not ready to come home. How many of us are strong enough? I wasn't strong enough. I'm telling you right now. I believed everything. I thought after 30 days, he's fine. Okay, he'll stay an extra 2 weeks. Then he'll go to halfway house. He didn't like that halfway house. No, Mom, I'm ready to come home. Don't waste your money. No, I made big mistakes with that. The more you listening to the addict and someone who has mental illness, the worse it gets. Don't go there. You need to stick to a program. You need to stick to a program. That is why I know and understand Al-Anon now. I understand why you need to go to group therapy, to listen to other people speak, to hear what they have to say, their experiences. One day you could possibly be in that exact same experience. But you need to hear this so you understand. When your kid calls you and they want money, you say no. No, you're going to IOP. No, your meals are taken care of for you. No, or any of these things. No, no, no. The only thing they're going to do with that money is waste it. They want cigarettes. Yeah, that's a big thing, the cigarettes. Big. Buy them a carton if you need to. What could I tell you? Cigarettes are so expensive, and I know back then they were very expensive, and it's an issue. But yes, it's better than them doing drugs, but they're still killing themselves. Maybe get a patch after a while for them. That I don't know. But cigarettes is one thing that helps them, relaxes them, maybe an anxiety pill. And again, you don't want to start doing that, but if they need that, yes. I can say that first rehab is so important. If they can nab that, and they decide on their own to get there, it's a blessing at that point, because they made that decision. And again, you're getting the help you need, so you're not enabling. Big enabling at the beginning. They can manipulate you into anything. Addicts are the best at this ever. They are great salespeople, and they are smart, and they know how to get you and push your buttons, and they are good at it. Remember, you bring them back into your home, you're bringing all that chaos with you, potentially. Now, if you want to think that after 30 days, it's fine to bring someone back into your house, I've seen it, and it doesn't work. And the whole cycle goes all over again, and you're living through it. It's funny because I was like relieved that I knew where he was after for those 30 days of that first rehab, you know? Like it's that feeling like you're so comfortable because like you know they're somewhere safe and it doesn't have to feel like it's on your shoulders at that moment. That all feels great. But at the end of the day, that's really where you need to get yourself back on track and realize like what just went on in my home? Like, how did I let this get so bad? And now I can't let it get like this again. You need to go refocus on the family unit. You need to refocus on what your next plans are, what that's going to look like, how you're going to keep them in rehab longer, 3 months at least, and then get them in a halfway house at least a month, if not two. And then what does that next thing look like? Were they in school before? Because probably not going back to school. And you could try to get them to go back to school, but you saying it is not going to happen. Them doing it, maybe they'll stick to it, maybe not. I would say I'd take a year at least, or a year and a half. Look, my son was a year and a half out, clean. His head was back on straight. I'm telling you, he was thinking so clearly. Went back to school. 3 months later, boom, couldn't do it. Couldn't stick to it. Went back to gambling, a little pot, every lying, hawking his laptops. I mean, everything. Right back to where we started again. So that also, I met someone once that told me they made their kid take out loans and pay themselves. And then they said if they finish and they graduate, they'll pay the loans off for them right away or whenever they could. And I think that is a great tool to use. That's something that's a possibility. I'd say stay clean for 2 years before they think about going back to school. But these days also they could do take some classes online. So maybe like a community college online part-time. That would be great. What about just doing a trade these days? They're making more money than people that are graduating from college with like a liberal arts degree. So like a plumber, electrician, something in construction, any of those type of jobs. Wow, they could do online and it's a whole other world. So that's something to think about. But again, you have to have these planned out. You have to think these things out. As the parent, they're not going to think about this at the beginning. No way. So you get them into rehab. Either you get them there because it's so bad, or it's bad that you've kicked them out of the house for 30 days. They call you like 30, 31 days because that's what happens. And they say they need help and they're willing to get help. So at that point, you have a rehab ready to go, a number. It does not have to be a private rehab. Please do not think you're sending them to a luxury hotel. They just need to get somewhere that's safe. They need to get somewhere where they have a bed. They're going to share rooms. These aren't like private room situations. They share rooms or small homes or apartments they have, and everybody has a room. That's how it works. And they go to rehab all day, and they talk about their problems in groups, and that's what they do. And I suggest you focus on that setup, and then at that point, what would be next, let's say after 6 months. Now, I'm just giving you some suggestions. Basically, my kid kept going back into rehab over and over again till the third time, and I saved him each time to bring him into rehab until the last time, the third time I turned to him and said, "This is it. This is the last time." And he said to me, "If you would have left me here, I would have died. Thank you. I promise this won't happen again." And I said, "I promise too. I will not be doing this again." And I never did do it again. He needed to go back into rehab, and he never did on his own. And he's estranged now from the family for 4 years. Nobody, nothing. And we don't know where he is. But I can tell you that I got my life back. Years of coping with this is not easy. It is a lifetime. It is a crisis. But I'm not living in survival mode. And I was for a really long time. And I think that's something to think about for yourself, for your relationship with your spouse, your significant other, your kids, your stepkids, who's ever involved, because it affects everyone and it causes chaos and it's just unpleasant and it ruins everything. Everything. So, sure, they're out of rehab now and they're home and it's the holidays. Of course, you want them around for Christmas. Of course. Oh, it wouldn't be Christmas without them, really. And then when Christmas is here and all the extended family and everybody's there, and then there's a whole blowout. And he's fighting with everyone, or he storms out because someone said something to him, or whatever it is made him unhappy or them unhappy. Or they don't want to come and you're upset because they don't want to come. You know what? They shouldn't be there. They don't need to be there yet. They need to get back to who they can be on their own, control their own self, their addictions, their emotions, their feelings. Why they need help, support with that. They don't need to be in an environment because you want them there to make you feel better. You need to think about that. Think about that. And I'm going to leave you with this last thing. This is something, one of the most profound things I ever said to my son. When he came out of his second rehab and I had a conversation with him, I turned to him and I said, you know, we're sitting and having lunch. And I was sitting across from him and I said to him, you know, I owe you an apology because I wanted you to be something that you didn't want enough yourself. I knew how smart he was. I knew he could have gone Ivy League. I knew I wanted him to be successful in any kind of professional level that would enhance his living and make him feel good and use his talents. But what I didn't understand as I was saying it is that it's nice to know when you have someone in your life that is capable of having those abilities to be that successful. But if they're not capable of using those tools that they have to build up to their success on their own, then they don't really have it to begin with. And you can't make that for them. You can't make them want to be what you want them to be, to study, to go to college, to have a profession, whatever that is, to be a plumber, an electrician, or an engineer, or an AI professional, whatever it's going to be. They have to want it more than you want it. And I always wanted it more than him. And I wanted that for everything for him. And that just can't be. It's never going to work because they have to want it. So it's really something to think about. And I had to apologize to him because I didn't want that pressure on him that he was letting me down. Like, we love each other so much. Like, I know that he loves me. And I know that he's thinking about me. And it's like I didn't want him to feel bad because of that. And I wanted that off his plate. Because as it is, he felt badly enough about himself that he didn't have to think how his mother felt about him. And in all fairness, I definitely felt like he let me down in many ways, in many years. And I would definitely explain to him and express to him that he's doing the wrong things, or the way I expressed it to him, and disagreed with his thinking and the way he spoke. And what I realized afterwards is that no matter what I would have said, it would have been wrong. Because if you disagreed with him, it was wrong. So you can't have a conversation with someone like that. And that's really where you need to understand that there's only so much you can do. So when it comes to the first rehab, these are all things to really think about and consider and take those factors in and understand that maybe 30 days is a time for you to start something new like yoga or take on a new hobby. I soaked myself in work. I had to pay for everything. I worked 90 hours a week and I didn't think about anything else. I couldn't think about anything else. And, I don't think I wanted to enjoy myself at all. I wanted no enjoyment. My heart was broken in so many ways, in so many pieces. Nah, I couldn't even think about bringing anything joy or anything that I enjoyed into my life. And any joy that I did have or wanted to have is I wanted to give to my other son and make sure that he had that in his life. You could listen to other podcasts. I definitely discuss that, how to not have your kids be as affected. Let them go on with their lives. This is not their problem. This is not their responsibility, and they need to go on with their lives. And the sooner you put that into play, the better off your kids will be and the relationships they'll have with their siblings, other siblings as well as you. I really hope this helped at a time now with mental illness coming out so strongly because of the Reiner family, who I feel terrible for. My heart goes out to them. We could only learn and think about our own families, our own situations that we're in, and make the best of what we have with them and not let our guards down. Not convince yourself there's something that's not there, that is there. Please remind yourself it's there and go seek help. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Keep following.
Thanks for tuning in. I trust this episode brought you insight and strength, offering valuable coping strategies. Stay connected with weekly content, plus follow if you enjoyed, and be sure to journal for your own self-care.